I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with a head to the shot. It's 30. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25, 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And then the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Happy Mike Evans Day to those who celebrate, and welcome back to a live edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, as always, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Evan Wanish. We have got some breaking news to kick things off from the governor's desk. The governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, says, today, Florida celebrates Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for his Hall of Fame-worthy achievements in football, making countless memories for fans across the Sunshine State and the entire country. We also recognize his commitment to helping others and giving back to the Tampa Bay community throughout his 11 seasons with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This January 10th is officially Mike Evans Day in Florida. We have got some more Buccaneer news for you and the game preview as we approach the wild card matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the 12-5 Washington Commanders. Evan, how you doing on this Mike Evans Day, my friend? Happy holidays.
Yeah, the holidays aren't quite over, right? I just sort of realized that the Commanders won 12 games this year. When you said that, so quite the turnaround for them, having the second overall pick last year, picking Jaden Daniels, and really, I mean, we've seen this from time to time, right? You saw the Houston Texans with C.J. Stroud last year. Rookie QBs can sometimes change things for a team pretty quickly. And I think you're seeing that with Washington. And look, the Bucs saw this Washington team. They saw Jaden Daniels. It was Jaden Daniels' first taste of the NFL, and obviously the Buccaneers are able to come away with a win. Jaden Daniels made some plays in that game, right? I'm not going to say the Bucs completely shut him down because they didn't, but the Bucs still came away with I believe it was 3-score win, so 37-20, I believe was the final score. So the Bucs were able to find a way to win that game. Now we've fast forward a lot of months later, and this is a different Washington team than the Buccaneers played, but the Buccaneers are a different team now too. You know, obviously, you have to remember where the Bucs were at that point. They're trying to figure out a brand new system, right, with Liam Cohen. It was the first game, first regular season game with Liam Cohen at the helm there, trying to figure out a brand new offensive system. Still trying to work in a lot of rookies who have become key fixtures in this, both on offense and defense. Obviously, Graham Barton, Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irving, still trying to work all those guys in week one. They're getting their first taste of NFL action. Tyke Smith. And then, it's just going to be different, right? I'm not going to go out there and expect the same exact ball game here. These two teams have been battle tested, right? And they face a lot of adversity. Both, actually, I believe both had, losing streaks during the season. The Buccaneers had a 4-game losing streak, and the Commanders had, I believe, a 3-game losing streak. So, Christopher Cole has got to have it. I would tend to agree. I think this is a must win.
I think so.
But I think it's like that in dodgeball. When Pepper Brooks is interviewing White Goodman, he said, it's before the championship game, and he said, I interviewed White Goodman before this game. He says his team really wants to win this one. Yeah, I bet they do. Yeah, so like I said, it's going to be a lot different, obviously, and I'm excited to see what version, of each team that you get here and how much different this matchup looks now compared to what it was, a couple months ago.
Yeah, for the Buccaneers, quite literally right back where they began the season, as you said. A lot of things have changed between these two teams since week one. We're going to dive into that and then some. But some more news off of the Red and Pewter press here. Tristan Wirfs has been named first-team AP All-Pro at the left tackle position. He is also one of only 2 Pro Bowlers the Buccaneers have this season, with him and Vita Vea, the big guys on the trenches representing Tampa Bay. But in doing so, Tristan Wirfs makes history and becomes the first and only player in NFL history to be an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler at left tackle and right tackle. The standard of excellence with this guy, I feel like we talk about this every week with a different player on this Buccaneers roster. Mike Evans, Levante David, Antoine Winfield Jr. has had a down year, but his standard is so high. That's why he's partially had a down year, that and the injuries. But Tristan Wirfs, man, he keeps playing like this for another 10, 15 years. He's already a player that I don't think should ever wear another uniform in his NFL career, but he plays like this for another 10, 15 years. We're talking about the greatest Buccaneers offensive lineman of all time, if he isn't already in some people's opinion.
Yeah, well, and if he plays this way for 10 more years, you're not going to be talking about him as the greatest offensive lineman. You might be talking about him as the greatest Buccaneer of all time. That's how good he's been. Now, obviously, I understand that, tackles and offensive linemen specifically won't get as much love, right? Because they don't play a splashy position, right? They're not out there making the plays and this and that. But Tristan Wirfs, yeah, is so darn good, and he's definitely earned this. So, and also, if you remember, this is after first couple of games, he wasn't like he was good, but again, we talk about that standard, right? He wasn't like dominant, right? And he really turned it around about midway through the season and just never looked back. Like I said, he was good, but like I remember there was like a little bit of concern, like the first 4 or 5 games of the season. They were like, Tristan Wirfs, like kind of like he looks good, but he's not Tristan Wirfs, and it's a lot similar, to Antoine Winfield Jr. This year. But Tristan Wirfs was able to turn it around, so in a major, major way, and yeah, he's definitely earned that. So yeah, I mean, he's on track. It's a Hall of Fame pace right now, and obviously a lot can happen. Right, there is a long ways away before that. Injuries you can't predict. Hopefully he can stay healthy, but if he does, I mean, I don't see a reason why this guy doesn't end up in Canton one day.
Let's show some love to Andrew08, the Cannon Fire crew, with a $9.99 super chat on this beautiful game preview Friday, our first one of the week. Thank you, Andrew. We appreciate you. He had a message. It says message retracted, so I don't know if he sent something and then took it back, thought about it again, and then didn't say it, but he's going to follow it up with another $5 super chat. He says, the analyst saying Daniels will break the rookie playoff curse better not say he's a rookie. We didn't expect them to win. After we win 45-15. I don't know what analyst he is referring to. I don't think it's been either of us. I have certainly given Jaden Daniels a lot of credit because of the season he put together, and I think that's a perfect way to transition into this game preview here. That's the talk of this matchup, is the evolution of Jaden Daniels as an NFL quarterback. He is probably your NFL Rookie of the Year, I'm going to assume. It is a quarterback award, and he has been the best of the bunch. You said it at the start of the show, too. Dan Quinn went into this season with a little bit of a rebuild in mind for Washington, and I would say things are ahead of schedule. 12-5 record in the NFL is nothing to sneeze at, and with Philly playing the way that they were this year, too, that proved to be a tough division. I know Dallas kind of fell off after the Dak injury, and the Giants are the Giants, but the Washington Commanders looking for their first playoff win since 2006 when they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Raymond James Stadium. Your thoughts on Jaden Daniels? What has changed the most about his game, and what are your thoughts on how the Bucs can try and slow him down here? Because I think he's going to get his.
Obviously, yeah, he's had a really good rookie season. It's the game, as you go on, I think the game slows down for a lot of these guys, right? And I think you always talk about the adjustments that guys have to make. It's the speed of the NFL. Right? There's nobody in college. There's very few players, I should say, right? You might have, if you're playing a team like Georgia, right? You might have 1 or 2 guys that like have NFL type speed, but everything's slower, right? In the NFL against these defenses, even if the defense isn't very good, the speed is just, lightning quick. And I think that's something you have to adjust to. And Daniels has. He's used his legs in very many situations, and he's had that clutch gene, right? Obviously, like has the Hail Mary against the Bears. That's more so luck than anything, right?
I hate to cut you off, but plays like that, I was going to mention it at some point during this show. Plays like that this season and some of the comeback wins they've had in the fourth quarter, that makes me very scared to play a Washington team like this, because there's a lot of things falling in place for them this year, and that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and they're a team that feels like they're never out of it, right? So in the fourth quarter, when you're up 8 points, don't get complacent, basically, right? Because this is a Washington team that believes that they're going to be able to come back because they've done it a bunch. Jaden Daniels led the game-winning drive against Philly to hand Philly a tough loss, their first loss since they got beaten by the Bucs. So yeah, it's he's been really good. He's been clutch, and that's something to where that the Bucks are gonna have to be ready for. Like I said, the Commanders have faced a little bit of their own adversity as well. Lost 3 straight games in November, and it was kind of like slipping away, like their season. But then they were able to rally, and they won ever since that. Their last loss was November 24th to the Dallas Cowboys. So that was their last loss in that game. And if you remember, that was the game where they missed the extra point after Terry McLaurin scored that late touchdown. So even then,
Ridiculous.
like making clutch plays, there's
Yeah.
a lot of their games have been right down to the wire. They beat the Saints as the Saints go for 2 and don't get it. That's the last play of that game. One of the last plays of the Eagles game. They beat the Falcons in overtime. So yeah, there's been a lot of their games that have been really close. I expect this one to be no different, regardless of who wins. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think it's going to come down to which defense can make the stop, right? Who is the ball last, and which defense is going to be able to make that stop.
Yeah, I think the turnover battle is going to be huge as well. We talk about the turnover margin for both of these teams. The Buccaneers, I Bleav, are right around -6. They're -5 or -6, which is the worst turnover differential among every playoff team. So that's going to be huge for Tampa Bay on the offensive side of the ball. We'll dive into that a little bit more when we talk about it. But taking care of the football for both of these teams is going to go a long way. I think this is going to be a blow-for-blow contest. As far as Jaden Daniels goes, there's also a lot of talk about his rookie experience, and I think we are going to have the advantage there. I Bleav that Todd Bowles has certainly seen a thing or two. The Buccaneers, the only team out of the NFC to represent themselves in the postseason the last 5 years, so he has playoff experience. This is in 2020, Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator, Super Bowl defense against the Kansas City Chiefs.
And face the gauntlet,
right? They absolutely,
yeah.
It was a battle to get there,
including a Washington team, right? The Bucs beat. That's the last time these two teams met in the playoffs.
Yeah, for lack of a better term, to put it simply, Todd Bowles has seen some shit, and I think both Todd Bowles and Liam Cohen are kind of saving some of their best looks for the postseason. With that being said, Jaden Daniels was seeing a lot of defensive fronts from Todd Bowles in week 1 that he probably didn't see for the rest of the year. I still think Bowles is going to throw some stuff at him on Sunday night that he has not seen all year, and the Bucs are going to have to rely on that. But what do you think is the best way to slow his game down? Is it taking away his receiving options, taking away Scary Terry? Zach Ertz is a guy who's kind of been on a tear for them this season. He's made some huge plays in clutch situations, and the Buccaneers have struggled not only defending tight ends, but defending the middle of the field, which is where Zach Ertz makes his money. So are we relying on the pass rush to force him into a rookie mistake? Do you just spy on him the whole game and hope to limit those plays with his legs? Because Washington also, talking about the differences between week 1 and now, they figured out how to hone in Jaden Daniels into their run game. They are much better at running the football this time around as well. So that's something you got to look out for.
Yeah, so really quick, the Buccaneers are -5 in the turnover differential. That is the worst of the playoff teams. However, the second worst, and I mean, look, it's a positive differential, but Washington is +1, so that is the second worst. Now that is improved. Last year, obviously having the second overall pick, but they were -14 last year, so kind of shows the improvement there on Washington's side. Yeah, I think when you're looking at this matchup, when you're looking at Jaden Daniels, you got to find a way to slow him down with his legs, right? You can't let him beat you with his legs. I think one of the Commanders' issues on offense is a lack of weapons. Terry McLaurin's good. Zach Ertz had a good year. Olomide Zaccheaus had a pretty good game, like a good stretch of weeks here. Pretty good game against Atlanta, too. But I don't see much outside of Ertz and McLaurin. So I'm willing to, and I understand that the Bucs secondary has been criticized in the past. They might be getting some help this week, but with some guys potentially returning, I Bleav today Bowles said that at least Winfield and I think Dean should be on track or on track, not officially going to play, right? We don't know for sure, but on track to play. So we'll see how that goes. But I think you have to trust your secondary that they're going to not let a lot of these guys beat you. and that I just think you can't let Daniels extend plays, get easy first downs on the third and longs when you're going to vacate all your coverages, right? When it's a 3rd and 11 and Washington's running deep outs or that, and those defensive backs are 20 yards down the field.
Yeah.
You can't let Daniels get outside and scramble for 15 yards and pick up the first down. I think that's where this game could get pretty dangerous for the Bucs. If you're allowing Jaden Daniels to basically do whatever he wants and scrambling when he needs to, I think you could be in some trouble.
Yeah, and those are the heads-up plays that you got to be aware of on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. 3rd and short, 3rd and manageable, basically, because the Bucs have found themselves in a lot of the games that they lose. Their opponent does a good job at just keeping the defense on the field. There was a drive a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember exactly what game it was. I want to say it was either Dallas or New Orleans. Maybe it was Carolina in the second half of that game. But they held on to the ball for like 11 minutes to start the 3rd quarter, and the Buccaneers offense just did not see the field. So if you're looking for a lethargic, or if the Bucs start looking lethargic like they did in that first half against the Saints, if your offense isn't scoring points and they are just controlling the clock and they are converting these short yardage situations over and over and over, if you don't have a defense for Jaden Daniels just taking a little dump to the left for a first down, he's going to do it every time. He's going to keep your defense on the field. And if you fall behind, that's going to be a big difference. So I think Jaden Daniels has certainly matured a lot. And again, a lot of people are going to say that we're overhyping the kid, but dude, he's made some ridiculous plays this year.
Yeah.
And you have to, I think, give credit where credit is due, especially because we know the experience factor is in the Bucs' favor, but this defense has faltered before, and Jaden Daniels is the perfect blueprint of quarterback. We call them on this show buck killers. If they don't have an answer for him early, or if the offense can't get going, and they're able to lock in and control the pace of the game, it could be a long afternoon, which is why I think that this game is definitely going to be much closer than people expect.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the week 1 stats, right? Jaden Daniels hurt the Bucs with his legs. I mean, 16 carries for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Didn't really do a ton through the air. But then, I mean, look, again, I think that's what's in Tampa's favor is the lack of weapons Washington has. Their leading receiver was Austin Eckler, 4 catches for 52 yards. Their second leading receiver was Brian Robinson Jr., 3 catches for 49 yards. Terry McLaurin had 2 catches for 17 yards. So the Bucs did a pretty nice job of defending him there. And I think that works out in their favor. Like you mentioned also, the Bucs defense, Lavonte David, Vita. I know there's a lot of young players on the defense, right, that haven't been there before. But there still is, even guys like Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, Anthony Nelson, they have playoff experience, right? Vita Vea, Lavonte David, Anthony Winfield Jr., Jamel Dean, KJ Britt. These guys, they've been there before, right? They've been in these situations, these more high pressure situations of do or die, right? Like it's win or go home. So it's a different intensity. I think that's what the Bucs have. Honestly, I think that's the most favorable thing in the Bucs' favor, to be honest with you. I really do think that the experience factor and the been there, done that sort of that the Bucs defense has over Jaden Daniels and Todd Bowles has over Jaden Daniels, I think could be a pretty key factor there. But we'll have to wait and see. It's about execution though, right? And I think tackling is going to be a big key here for the Bucs. It wasn't good in the first half against New Orleans. It's going to be a whole heck of a lot better this week.
We got a $5 super chat here from Big Country 2988. He says, Bucs win Sunday, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The defense hasn't given up over 10 points in the second half of the last 7 out of 8 games. That's a great point, and I'm glad that you brought that up as well, because we talk about Todd Bowles and his approach to not only Jaden Daniels, but the other weapons on this Washington offense. Let's just not ignore Austin Eckler. Didn't hit 1,000 yards on the ground this season, but he is a valuable target in both the receiving game and the run game. He can wake things up and get going when they need to. Scary Terry had a decent year. Zach Ertz definitely had a really good year. But those second half adjustments from Todd Bowles, I think if Jaden Daniels gets a little too happy-go-lucky in that first half, I would be curious to see how Bowles and the defense respond. I know they've been shorthanded with personnel, but it doesn't matter. Next man up. We do have an update here. Todd Bowles did say Antoine Winfield Jr. and Jamel Dean are going to be fine to play in Sunday night's NFC wildcard game. K. Dotton trending in the right direction on the offensive side of the ball. Josh Hill is out. expect Edwards to be questionable. So Antoine Winfield Jr., Jamel Dean, and I Bleav Zion McCollum are going to be in the lineup for Tampa Bay, which is great news. But your thoughts here on Todd Bowles, these defensive adjustments that people have really touted as I go put this fire out.
Yeah. So I mean, look, it's a positive sign, right? It is a positive sign with the second half, and everything like that for sure. That being said, I would say this: the Washington offense is the best offense statistically too that the Bucs have faced since their bye week. When you're looking at a lot of the things here, Washington is 28.5 points per game they are averaging. The Bucs are 29.5. So the Bucs are the fourth ranked team in terms of points per game. Washington is fifth. I Bleav Washington's also seventh in yards per game. So, yes, the Buccaneers, it's been impressive, right? What Todd Bowles and the defense have been able to do. That being said, I do think we have to remind ourselves of exactly who the Bucs have been playing. The Chargers game was impressive, right? The Chargers have been a good offense. That was one of the better offenses that they played. That was impressive. I'm not saying the other ones aren't impressive, because it is impressive to hold a team almost shut out, consistently week in and week out in the second half. That being said, they played Carolina twice. They played Vegas. They played New Orleans. They played the Giants. Not exactly the best offenses in the world here. So I think this is going to be a true test for this defense, and we're going to see where this defense is at. And I think the second half adjustments are going to matter. I think that the first half might be a feeling out process. Maybe Washington even had the lead at halftime, but I think it's something to where those second half adjustments, we're going to see if it's more so like, well, these offenses aren't really that talented, and that's why, or if it's something that the Buccaneers and Todd Bowles are specifically doing that's helping shut down these teams in the second half.
We have described a Todd Bowles defense like this in the past, but this is a bend but don't break game for the Bucs defense because, again, I have a feeling that their offense is good. They have playmakers. They have a young rookie quarterback who can make plays with his legs that has hurt the Bucs in the past. So I think they're going to move the football, but it's all about those crucial stops. It's all about preventing touchdowns. It's all about, a big time sack on third down to knock them out of field goal range. Or they've had a lot of luck with missed field goals this year. Maybe you get lucky and get one of those this week. But really a lot of it, I think, comes down to making those plays on defense to set up a field goal, answer with a touchdown. Set up a field goal, answer with another touchdown. That's a 14-6 run. That's how you create distance in a game like this. I think if you can prevent those big-time explosive plays over the top, obviously that's going to be tough. But if they can do that, keep everything in front of them, and just try and hold this offense to field goals, like that's going to go a very long way. I think Dan Quinn's also a very good head coach. He's got good coordinators, good offensive coordinator. In
Cliff Kingsbury.
Thank you. Jesus. In Cliff Kingsbury, who is getting the most out of Jaden Daniels. So people always give us a hard time for giving these teams credit, but they're a 12-win playoff team in the NFL.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the playoffs at this point. I mean, everybody's good, right? So I don't really want to hear you're giving them too much credit. They're in the playoffs, I mean, they're the 60. They have 2 more wins than Tampa Bay does, though. So, They have more wins than the Bucs do, even though the Buccaneers did beat them. I'm very curious to see, though, how they look because, I think if these two teams didn't play week 1, the matchup would have looked different. I really do. So I'm curious to see how they look. I think limiting the splash plays, of course, and basically, what you're telling me is complimentary football, though, right? It's giving up the field goal, scoring the touchdown, and that weaves in. Excuse me, sorry, hit my laptop. I was so angry, I just decided to.
We got
smash
fires
my
over
laptop.
here. It's
I know it's okay. But hey, it's playoff week. But so. I think, it all goes into one, right? Your offense has to complement your defense complements your offense. So I think that's something where the Bucs have been a pretty decent team, at bending and not breaking. Really, I mean, throughout Todd Bowles' entire tenure, I mean, that's sort of like the philosophy they've kind of built, like just don't allow touchdowns. Like you're going to be able to get a lot of yards against Tampa's defense, but are you going to be able to score touchdowns, right? And the Bucs hope that they can trade off, just like you said, field goals for touchdowns. So I think that's a big point in this game. If Washington's able to score touchdowns, it is going to be, a challenge, I think, to just match them drive for drive if Jaden Daniels is starting to feel it. I think early, before we get to the Bucs offense versus the Commanders defense, I wanted to say, like, I think early on it's important to have some success against the rookie quarterback, because if you just give him a little bit of confidence,
Yeah.
he might be a little spooked out, maybe, right? It's a first playoff game, right? It's an away game. Doesn't really know what to expect there. The intensity is different. If he makes a few throws, they get a drive going, he gets a little bit more confidence there, you could be in for a long night. And I do think that the Bucs need to start fast on both offense and defense, but I think specifically on defense, getting off the field early, I think is pretty important.
I'd like to see the fans show up. I don't think
Yeah.
the Bucs are ever going to have a true home field advantage. It's tough to do that in Tampa. We've had that conversation time and time again. If you disagree, you're just in your feelings about it. I hate to say that. As a lifelong Tampa native, it is hard to have a home field advantage at a Bucs game. But this has now become, the third or the fourth year in a row that the Bucs have hosted a playoff game? So this time of year,
Fourth year in a row, yeah.
fans are going to these games, man. People know what to expect, and they know that they have to get behind the team. They have to get loud. They have to disrupt a rookie quarterback who hasn't been in this atmosphere before. Prove that you could do it. They got loud. The loudest that they got, I think, in this regular season was when the Duck was on the field, and it caused the block punt return for a touchdown. Prove that you can do that, and I think that they can somehow, at times, get the upper hand. Not somehow. Sorry, the dog barking is throwing me off. I think they can get the upper hand on Jaden Daniels if you come out early and you make the defense set the tone, but also the crowd. Get loud. Prove that they can do it on primetime as well. Bryce said in chat he doesn't want to hear a damn thing about primetime. Bucs were 0-4. Bucs were 0-4 in primetime this year. So I'm going to ignore the elephant in the room for today's game preview. I'm not going to talk about it. But they are 0-4 on primetime this year, so the Bucs certainly have to show up. But let's talk about...
Really quick, we're going to talk about the Bucs offense, but Braden Travis says, when we'll see GB back? It's 2025. It's 2025 season, not anytime soon. So, if Chris Godwin, the only way you'll see Chris Godwin back in Bucs uniforms is if he re-signs with them. You will not see him. Todd Bowles actually, I Bleav, confirmed that both he and Servassier Dennis do not have a shot to come back.
Yeah. Exactly what you said. Todd Bowles confirmed that Servassier Dennis, Chris Godwin, even with the deep playoff run, if the Bucs went all the way to the Super Bowl, I don't think either of those guys would be suiting up, unfortunately. But let's talk about, this is like the, this is the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul of the entire game. Mike Evans versus Marshon Lattimore. He gets his record by 2 yards, makes history. The Buccaneers clinch a playoff spot. And they run into Marshon Lattimore. Now, he has only played a handful of games for Washington, but in his debut, they did not target his side of the field at all. He's not going to blow up the stat sheet, but he is a respected corner among NFL brass. And let's face it, he is one of the few players in NFL history who can affect Mike Evans, can take a Mike Evans out of the game. And obviously, that's going to be their big center point on the defensive side of the ball, I think, in Lattimore's case. But what do you think? Are people overhyping this fight, like, say, Tyson versus Paul? Is it going to be a big old nothing burger and Mike gets 4 catches for 55 yards? Or do you think we could potentially see fireworks between these guys?
I mean, I think you might see a little bit of fireworks. I do think it helped that it was the Saints, though. Like, that's a division rival, a team that's beat you over and over and over again. I don't know if the intensity is going to be the exact same because he's in a different situation, but hey, it's the playoffs, right? And these guys have met once before in the playoffs as well. And Mike Evans didn't like wow anybody on the stat sheet, but he got the W, right? So that's all that really matters. And I Bleav he scored a touchdown in that game, the divisional round as well. So yeah, I mean, it's funny how, it comes full circle, right? You're like, oh, the Marshon Lattimore versus Mike Evans battles are done, right? Oh, well. But here we are, and you get at least one more here for old time's sake. I think it's, there has been times where Lattimore has shut down Evans, but there's also been times where Evans has gotten open and the ball hasn't come to him for whatever reason. So I am curious to see how the Commanders sort of line it up. Do they do like what the Saints did, where basically like Lattimore almost followed Evans like exclusively? I don't know if the Commanders are going to do that or not. I'm not sure how they're going to play their defense, but I do think it'll be pretty fun to see. It's always a fun matchup to watch. So I do think that there's a potential for fireworks, but I do think that the Bucs versus Saints thing sort of aided that as well.
Yeah.
So I think that it might not be the same exact intensity.
Yeah, and I think when you look at recent history, especially the last few times these guys have matched up against each other, Mike has gotten the upper hand over Lattimore. There's penalty yardage that we haven't even talked about yet. It's been brought up in the live chat. He in that last game that they played, he tried to tackle Mike Evans at the line of scrimmage. They threw the flag for a DPI, and Bucs ended up going down the field. I'm pretty sure scoring. That was the day that they put up 51 points, but he hasn't been very effective in recent matchups. Times change. Scenery changes as well. This isn't a division game. This is the postseason. So I don't think these guys have squared off since that 2020 postseason. I don't even know if Lattimore played in that game for New Orleans.
I don't. I Bleav he did.
Yeah, so it's been a while, and it means more. But going to be interesting to watch. Let me ask you this. If Mike Evans is taken out of the game, and they do a decent job at taking him out of the equation, who do you expect to step up? Is it somebody else in the pass game? Is it, the running backs, which I'm sure we're going to talk about at some point? That's a favorable matchup for Tampa Bay. But if Mike Evans, even though it's not a one-man show, Mike Evans certainly can be the catalyst for a lot of other opportunities. If he is taken out of the equation, where do you think the Bucs go?
Yeah, really quick about the one last note about the primetime games there. I saw yeah, you clarified the Bucs did beat the Eagles last year on Monday Night Football in the wild card round.
Well, it was Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
Damn,
it
I'm
was
insane.
Monday. It was
I'm
Monday
just
Night
wrong
Football. This year the Bucs beat the Eagles at 1 p.m. But the playoff game was Monday Night Football. So yes,
Okay.
the Buccaneers did go winless last year in primetime. But they did win their playoff game that was in prime time. So
My
maybe
mistake.
that's the key, maybe. All right, maybe. So we'll have to wait and see. I think it's a fun. I'm not 100% sure, but and you can fact check me if you want, but I'm pretty sure. So it's been 4 years that the NFL has done the Monday night wild card game, and I Bleav the Bucs and the Rams have been featured in every single one. I Bleav it was 2021 was the Rams and Cardinals, 2022 was Bucs Cowboys, 2023 was Bucs Eagles, and 2024 is Rams Vikings. So a little bit of a fun fact there. But yes, back to the question. If the Commanders do a nice job of taking away Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore gets the better of him, whatever. Because that's what they're going to try and do, right? They're going to try and limit Mike Evans. Obviously, it's Jalen McMillan, right? But I think Cade Otton potentially coming back. He's on track to play. I think that could be a big key here. He's missed a couple of weeks, so we know Baker Mayfield really likes to target him. So I think he is a pretty big key in all of this. So if you want to pass the ball, which I have some notes and stuff here, but if you would like to pass the ball, I think, obviously Jim McMillan, but I think Cade Otton coming back is a pretty big key here that not enough people, I think, are talking about, because I think he affects the offense, both in the passing game, but also in the running game as a run blocker as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. If you weren't going to say it, I was about to. I brought that up with the Ref the District guys. We did a crossover episode with them earlier. You can check that out over on the YouTube channel and the podcast feed now. But Cade Otton coming back is huge, because you remember the first guy to step up in the absence of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin was Cade Otton. That was the period of the season where we were hoping Jalen McMillan would step up. And when we have put context on his rookie season and said that at times Jalen McMillan has been disappointing, that's what we mean. Like, that was a stretch of games where he needed to step up. He has absolutely been on fire, leads the NFL in touchdowns since week 12. He will be just fine. He is perfectly capable, and we know that. But
he scored his first career touch, scored a touchdown against Washington. So
that is true. Got his first career touchdown against Washington all the way back in week 1. But Cade Otton, a huge part of this Buccaneers offense. I'm excited to see him back in the lineup. So another guy to think about there. But let's get to the matchup I think everybody is really excited for. And that is the rookie wonder, Bucky Irving at the running back position, and this Buccaneers running back room. Let's not discredit Rachaad White and Sean Tucker. Both of those guys, although brief, made appearances against the Saints. Rachaad White got no carries. I was curious your take on that as we talk about this approach here. The Washington defense is ranked 30th against the run. They do have some talent. Bobby Wagner at the linebacker position, obviously going to want to be a guy that you run around. But for the most part, they have not defended the run very well at all. And the Bucs are looking to continue to cook. They have averaged over 5 yards per carry this season. First time they've ever done that as an offense.
Yeah, so I mean, there's an opportunity there, right? There's obviously an opportunity, and I think the Bucs ran for over 100 yards last time these two teams met. Bucky Irving was 9 carries for 62 yards. Rashad White 15 carries for 31 yards. So White didn't really find much success there on the ground. But yeah, Washington, like you mentioned, 30th in the league, allowing 137.5 yards per game. But in their 2023 run defense was actually better. That's an area where they've gotten worse. They were 126.8 yards per game allowed in 2023. That was 27th in the NFL. So they've actually gotten worse in that category.
I mean,
Here's the thing.
They won 9 more games, so I guess you got to take the good with the bad, you know?
Yeah. I think they'll take that trade off. I think that's okay. Here's the thing though, right? The Buccaneers just played the New Orleans Saints, who are the 31st ranked run team, and they essentially refused to run. They played the Dallas Cowboys, who the Washington's 30th, Dallas is 29, and they essentially refused to run. So the only team that they have like really stuck with running against is the Carolina Panthers, and they're 32nd, and like 31 isn't even close. So I do have a concern about that. Like, are they going to get really pass happy here? Because we've seen it. Like, we've seen them play these struggling run defenses and still try and air the ball out. Washington's pass defense has greatly improved. They were in 2023, 262.2 yards per game allowed through the air, 32nd in the NFL. This year, 189.5. That's third best in the NFL. They have flipped the script on their secondary, and if the Bucs are going to come out here and start passing it all over the place, I don't know if I like their chances. I think they have to run the football in this game.
I agree 100%. I think that goes hand in hand to how you start the game, how you open up those first 10, 15, 20 plays on offense, because all the games that they've lost this season, or at least the recent ones, right? The recent loss to Dallas, that was a heartbreaker. They lost because of a lethargic start on the offensive side of the ball. They almost lost to New Orleans because of a lethargic start on the offensive side of the ball. They figured out how to score points in the second half, but if you don't get 3 back-to-back 3-and-outs from your defense, who knows what happens in that game? It could be too little too late. So, yeah, the importance of a fast start for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are 9-1 this season when scoring first. They are 1-6 when the opponent scores first.
And before Sunday, they were 0-6.
Yeah.
So, it's important. It really is important. A couple more notes on the Washington defense before we move on to other things. In terms of points per game, they've improved as well. Not like crazy, but 30.5 points per game allowed last year. That was also 32nd in the NFL. And I want to bring this up because this is Dan Quinn's first year, right? So, and he's a defensive guy. He's installing his defense. They've improved under Dan Quinn. Now 23 points allowed per game. That's 18th in the NFL. Yards per game, they allowed 388.9 yards per game last year. That was 32nd. This year, 327.9. That's 13th in the NFL. So they've improved in most categories except running, and I think that's where the Buccaneers just really have to. You just got to pound the rock, and I am a little concerned because the last couple of times we've seen it, and we've said this, right? Oh, you got to run the ball. They've gone out and it's like they've tried to outsmart. It's 2 straight weeks now, right? It was the Dallas game and it was I'm sorry, 2 out of the last 3 games. The Dallas game and then the New Orleans game. It almost seems like they've tried to outsmart the opponent. Oh, well, you think we're gonna, you struggle against the run, so you think we're gonna run the ball, but here we go, we're gonna pass, and it hasn't really worked. So I think they can't get cute here, and I think they gotta give the ball to Bucky Irving, give the ball to Rashad White, give the ball to Sean Tucker, and just let them work. Get it into manageable, second and third downs where you can take your shots down the field and take your chances. I just, that worries me though, because we've seen it where they've played a struggling run defense and they just sort of refuse to run the ball until it's too late.
Yeah, I want to hope that Liam Cohen is saving his best offensive game plan for the postseason. I do think they were hiding a lot of things in the final weeks of the year, so maybe we see something we haven't seen before as far as personnel usage, maybe a couple more creative plays out of that pony package they love to run with both of the running backs. But running the football, don't get away from running the football, especially if you're behind in this game. Damn it, be stubborn if you have to. I know that we have talked about that before, but Bucky Irving is the type of running back, man, where you give him 20 carries a game, he's going to reward you for it. And in all of these games that you had talked about, that Dallas game, the New Orleans game, it was one of those two. We went into halftime, and I think they had only tried to run the ball like 11 times out of the 20 or 30, 35, 45 plays that they ran on offense.
Out of the first 11 plays against New Orleans last week, 2 of them were runs.
Exactly. You can't have that happen. You really can't. This run game is too good for you to try and dink and dunk. Baker has played well. The pass catchers on this team have played well, but with a defense like Washington, I think there's just matchups here where you're not going to find them sleeping in that sense. But the Buccaneers offensive line, one last note here, got to be aware of some pass rushers. They are going to have certain work cut out for them. Dante Fowler Jr. had 10.5 sacks this year. As an NFL pass rusher, that is tough to do. Now, I think Luke Gedeke and Tristan Wirfs absolutely can handle it. We were just talking about Tristan Wirfs on pace to be the greatest Buccaneer of all time so far. So I think he can do it without a doubt. But you're going to be looking at those passing downs. You're going to be looking at what running back you have to pick up the blitz, Rachaad White or Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving, his pass protection has really improved over the last half of the season. Rachaad White, maybe they like him more for passing downs. Maybe he doesn't get the rock as much on the ground this week, but he has been vital at protecting the quarterback. So if you can do that, keep Baker clean, keep him trusting his pocket, and obviously not turn the ball over. Those are all going to be big keys to victory for the Buccaneers on the offensive side of the ball. But Evan, I guess we can talk about special teams really quick. Just to note, Austin Eckler was named to the All-Pro team as a returner. This is a Buccaneers unit that has struggled to tackle this year, and they also made a punt change. We are dealing with rookie.
Had a blunder last week that you can't afford this week. So yeah, luckily they got it out of the way a week early.
We normally don't go into detail on special teams, but for the Buccaneers, Money Mac, he's going to take care of business. I don't have to say a damn thing about him. But this kick return game.
Why did you?
Yeah,
he say he's going to take care of business. Now I got to be nervous.
What do you think of special teams in the return game here? Any thoughts in your mind?
I mean, look, it can flip a game, right? I mean, that's something to where it can provide a spark, and for good or bad, right? It can do that. So the Bucs were able to survive last week. Their little blunder there, where I think Jack Browning I think he drops the snap, picks it up, tries to kick it, and then sort of just kicks off the side of his foot. You can't have that though this week, right? This is playoff football now, and mistakes like that are what get you sent home. I mean, that's just simple stuff there. So you can't have any of those blunders there. Fun fact, I Bleav Bucky Irving got 1 vote for first team All-Pro as a returner. Had like 6 returns, and then he got 1 vote, and didn't really do like a ton with them. But yeah, so fun fact. But yeah, just play a clean game there, right? Don't make any mistakes, and that's something to where special teams is something that I think is pretty standard, I guess, right? I think that the team that makes the mistake on special teams is usually the team that loses in these types of games. So you got to make your kicks. You got to obviously you got to handle the punts. You got to make sure your coverage is good. Obviously, Austin Eckler's had some success there. So I do think they have to watch out for that. But yeah, just play a clean game there, and I think you should be okay on that front.
Disciplined football is going to go a long way. This is the postseason. The Buccaneers had a couple of nightmare scenarios with penalties towards the end of the year. That's not when you want to see those happen. I know that crew was certainly the all-star crew for the Bucs Saints game in Tampa. So, that game, it is what it is. There were an S-ton of penalties. But I think if you can keep your hands to yourself, not take too many back-breaking holding calls, avoid the defensive pass interference, which they have done a decent job of doing this season, even with the lack of depth and experience in that area, play a clean game. I think the Buccaneers are the better team. Score predictions. Sunday Night Football. Excuse me, not Monday Night Football. Sunday Night Football. Tampa Bay Buccaneers from Raymond James Stadium. This is a rematch of Week 1. The Buccaneers won 37-20. The Buccaneers looking for their 5th straight wild card weekend win. The Commanders are looking for their first playoff win in 20 years since they last beat the Bucs in 2006.
Actually, I think Bleav would be their second straight because they lost the wild card weekend 2022. They lost to the Cowboys.
Oh, you're right. Excuse me. Yeah. I don't know how I forgot that. I was there at that game. I took my poor mother to that game. I'll never forget that.
She's got a terrible record of Bucs games.
She really does. I took her that season. She wanted to see Tom Brady so bad while he was playing here. So I took her to the Bengals game. We had a very fun first half.
Fun first half.
Yeah.
The rest of it, not so much.
And then took her to the Cowboys game.
And that was not fun at all.
She also showed up to our watch party, the Cannon Fire watch party at Berry House when they played Washington.
And
they
lost that game.
And they lost that game. And we also had a watch party. Was it when they lost to the Browns or the Niners?
I think it was the Browns. I think that was the watch party.
Worse. That's why we don't do the watch parties anymore. It was terrible. We had a terrible string of lucks. We were 0-3 to start those watch parties. So,
they might come back eventually. We'll see.
Maybe. We gotta see what happens.
You haven't done one yet, as in like the Baker era. So,
well, I'd love to do one. To be honest with you, that's not a Bucs game. That way, it's a stress-free atmosphere. I don't, I can throw a few drinks back and talk to people and not have to worry about watching the game 100% of the time. So, we'll get into some score predictions here. As I said, I do think the Bucs are the better team. I think Washington, their rebuild is far ahead of schedule. I think Dan Quinn is a damn good coach. And him and Todd Bowles are going to battle here. He is a guy who has game planned for some of the talent on the Bucs in the past. He's game planned for Mike Evans twice a year when he was coaching Atlanta. He knows what he has to do with the talent on the defensive side of the ball to slow down the weapons the Buccaneers have. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be back and forth. The Buccaneers are favored by 3. 27-24. Bucs won it by 3.
Okay. I don't think it's going to be 37-20. I don't think the Bucs are going to win by 3 scores. I don't think the Washington Commanders are going to win by 3 scores either. I think it's a close game. I think it's it's a higher scoring game. Not going to lie, because I've never lied to the CFP listeners. I've never lied. I initially thought the Bucs were going to lose this game. When the schedule first came out, I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, and I do think they're still going to have trouble containing Jaden Daniels. Like, I do have a legit concern about that, because I do think he's a different quarterback than what they saw week 1. So I thought the Bucs were going to lose this game. That being said, when I looked into more so on the Commanders' defensive side of the ball, I think the Buccaneers have the advantage there, and I do think the experience is going to matter, especially with the Bucs defense and playing a rookie quarterback. So I am going to give the Buccaneers the win. I'm going to flip my prediction. Okay, I'm going to give the Buccaneers the win, 30-26. Buccaneers win and cover. If you guys are, paying attention to betting the Bucs, we'll have wild card edition of betting the Bucs out soon. But if you guys are paying attention to betting the Bucs, I have the Buccaneers covering in this game, 30-26. I do think it's a high scoring game. Again, I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think Washington may even have the ball with a chance to win the game. Yeah. And the Bucs defense got to make a play to come up with the big one.
Well, and that's a scary situation to find yourself in, too. We didn't really talk about it when we were talking about Jaden Daniels at the top of the show, but his playmaking ability in the fourth quarter specifically has been one of the most impressive things about him this year. It seems like he waits until the final minute and a half to try and win most of their games this year. So if you're the Buccaneers defense, you have to be prepared. I think it's going to be tough to be playing from a position of comfort in a playoff game. They have done it in the past. They beat the Eagles handily last year. They beat the Eagles handily the year before. So, they have done it in the past. I just think there's a lot of elements at play here that are going to make it a tough matchup. The injuries on the defensive side of the ball. These are guys that have not played really much consistent football with each other at all. It's been lineup changes week in and week out. It's going to be more lineup changes. Hopefully Antoine Winfield Jr. is back in the lineup. He should be good to go. Jamel Dean should be in the lineup for Tampa Bay, and Zion McCollum. Those guys are going to have to hold down shop. Levante David, the ageless wonder, going to have to do the damn thing, and he's been doing it for a long time at this point. I think they do just that, but got to be prepared. Got to start fast as well. Cannot fall behind against a team that is as good as scoring points and moving the ball as Washington has been this year. But ladies and gentlemen, really quickly, a couple of score predictions in the chat. Noah 2023 says Tampa Bay 35, Washington 27. Miguel is picking the Bucs 27-17. It's Ed is taking Tampa Bay 27-24. Bucs fan says 35-17. Bucs win. Jersey 2F says 34-21 Bucs. Our buddy Sud says Bucs defense starts and stays hot 16-30. Big 2-possession win. That would be a statement. And Jared Cox says 34-24 Bucs win. Looking to chase history. I mean, the Bucs have had a historic season. They really have. When you take into account the records they have broken, the efficiency on the offensive side of the ball, the first offense in NFL history to complete over 70% of their passes and average over 5 yards per carry on the ground. The Bucs have never in the history of the franchise had an offense as efficient and, dare I say, explosive as this. They can attack you in more ways than one. And when they are on, they are tough to beat. I think when the Bucs offense is rolling, the only team that can beat them is the Bucs. And I will stand on that hill for this week. We both picked the Bucs to win. Agreed?
Yes.
Good plan. Great plan. Appreciate everybody. Jersey Tooth, like tooth. Old nickname growing up. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. That is going to do it, I believe, for today's game preview episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And don't forget, Sunday night after the game, win or lose, there is no draw in this one. Either win or go home. We will be live after the game. YouTube.com/Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_Daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. And check out his written work at BucsNation.com. How can people continue to get ready for the game this week, my friend?
Yeah, going to be having the Q&A out with the Washington Commanders person over there on their SB Nation site. So be sure to stay tuned for that because they're going to be out here maybe today or tomorrow, Saturday. We're recording this on Friday. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. Head over to BucsNation.com for all that good stuff. If you want some video content, though, check out the Cannonfire Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening on audio. You've listened on audio all year. We appreciate you guys listening on audio. But if you guys want a little bit more content there in the video form, we do have some stuff for you. We'll have Betting the Bucs out before the game, wild card edition of Betting the Bucs, and we also will have the wild card edition of Players to Watch for this game. And then afterwards, after the game, win or lose, we're still going to be doing best and worst. So regardless of whether the Bucs season is over or not, best and worst is coming. The Betting the Bucs and the Players to Watch is TBD. So we will see what happens there. But we want to thank you guys for all the support. I know we said it last week too, but we mean it. We want to thank you guys for all the support on the YouTube channel, specifically with our short form content. Because it's something new that we've done, right? We've always done the podcast. We've always done the post games, the previews, the midweek show, but we've really started to incorporate the almost everyday content, right? Almost every day of the week. So I think it's 5 or 6 out of the 7 days of the week that we have something new out for you guys. So we appreciate all the support on that as well. So go check that out. Cannonfire Podcast YouTube.
You nailed it. Last but not least, you can find myself Instagram and Twitter at Redicus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. We will talk to you Sunday night after the game, maybe even early Monday morning. Who knows? If we get overtime, it could be a late one, but it's going to be fun. We will talk to you then. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for watching, and go Bucs.